You have a degree, maybe two. You can solve complex problems at work. You give great advice to your friends. But when it comes to your own relationship, the one that's clearly hurting you can't seem to leave, and everyone around you is confused. They're asking why someone as smart as you would stay with someone who treats you this way. Here's what they don't understand. Intelligence has nothing to do with it. There's this assumption in our culture that smart people make smart choices, that if you're educated, self-aware, or successful, you should be able to spot a bad relationship and walk away. But that's not how trauma bonding works. Trauma bonding doesn't care about your IQ. It doesn't care about your accomplishments. It doesn't care how much therapy you've had or how many self-help books you've read. Trauma bonding hijacks your nervous system. It rewires your brain, and it makes leaving feel more dangerous than staying. Today, we're going to break down exactly what trauma bonding is, why it happens, and why being smart doesn't protect you from it. In fact, in some ways, it makes you more vulnerable. Let's start with what trauma bonding actually is, because a lot of people think it just means staying in a bad relationship. But it's way more specific than that. Trauma bonding is a psychological attachment that forms between a person and someone who hurts them. It's created through a cycle of abuse followed by positive reinforcement, hurt, then kindness, pain, then affection, cruelty, then apologies. This cycle creates a powerful emotional bond that's actually stronger than bonds formed in healthy relationships. And here's the thing that makes it so confusing. The bond feels like love. It feels like connection. It feels like you can't live without this person. But it's not love. It's an attachment formed through fear and intermittent reward. The term trauma bonding was first used by psychologist Patrick Carnes in the 1990s. He was studying why people stayed in abusive relationships even when they knew the relationship was harmful. What he discovered was that the bond wasn't formed despite the abuse. It was formed because of the abuse. The inconsistency, the unpredictability, the cycle of terrible treatment followed by moments of kindness or love. This pattern creates a psychological phenomenon that keeps people trapped, even when every logical part of their brain is screaming at them to leave. Here's how it forms. In the beginning, there's usually an intense connection. The relationship feels amazing, better than anything you've experienced before. They make you feel special, seen, understood. This is often called love bombing. They shower you with attention, affection, promises. Your brain is flooded with feel-good chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. You feel like you've finally found your person. Then something shifts, maybe slowly, maybe suddenly. They become critical, distant, mean. They withdraw the affection they were giving you so freely, and your brain panics because you were just getting all these feel-good chemicals, and now they're gone. So you try harder. You try to get back to that initial feeling. You try to fix whatever went wrong. And sometimes it works. They're kind again. They apologize. They're loving. And your brain gets that hit of relief, that flood of chemicals. And this creates the bond. The cycle continues. Tension builds, there's an incident, abuse happens. It could be emotional, verbal, physical, financial. Then there's reconciliation, apologies, promises to change, gifts, affection. Then there's a calm period where things feel okay, where you think maybe it's getting better. Then the tension builds again, and the cycle repeats. Each time this happens, the bond gets stronger because your nervous system is learning that this person is both the source of your pain and your comfort. They hurt you, then they soothe you. They cause the problem, then they solve it. This creates a dependency that goes beyond logic, beyond reason, beyond intelligence. Now let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain during this process. Because understanding the neuroscience helps explain why smart people can't just think their way out of trauma bonds. When you're in the good part of the cycle, when your partner is being kind or loving after a period of cruelty, your brain releases a massive amount of dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. It's the same chemical involved in addiction. Studies on brain chemistry show that intermittent reinforcement, getting a reward sometimes but not always, creates stronger dopamine responses than consistent reinforcement. This is why slot machines are so addictive. You don't know when you'll win, so your brain gets a huge hit of dopamine when you do. The same thing happens in trauma-bonded relationships. You don't know when your partner will be kind, so when they are, your brain treats it like winning the lottery. Research on trauma bonding shows that this creates actual changes in your brain's structure. The amygdala, which processes fear and emotion, becomes hyperactive. The prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thinking and decision-making, becomes less active. This is why you can know logically that you should leave, but feel emotionally unable to do it. Your emotional brain is overriding your logical brain. Studies using brain imaging have shown that people in abusive relationships have similar brain patterns to people with PTSD. Your brain is in survival mode, and in survival mode, you don't make decisions based on long-term well-being. You make decisions based on immediate safety, and staying feels safer than the unknown of leaving. There's also something called cognitive dissonance at play. This is when you hold two conflicting beliefs at the same time and your brain tries to resolve the conflict. You believe this person loves you. You also know they're hurting you. These two things can't both be true, so your brain starts working overtime to make them fit together. You start making excuses. They're stressed at work. They had a rough childhood. They don't mean it. You start minimizing the abuse. It wasn't that bad. Other people have it worse. At least they don't hit me. Or if they do hit you, at least they apologize. You start blaming yourself. If I was less sensitive, if I didn't make them so angry, if I was better. This isn't you being stupid. This is your brain trying to resolve an impossible situation. Researchers who study abusive relationships have found that cognitive dissonance is one of the strongest factors keeping people trapped. Attachment theory gives us another lens to understand this. People who experienced inconsistent caregiving as children are more vulnerable to trauma bonding as adults. If your parent was sometimes loving and sometimes rejecting, your nervous system learned that love is unpredictable, that you have to work hard to get it, that it can be taken away at any moment. So when you encounter a partner who treats you inconsistently, it feels familiar. Your attachment system recognizes this pattern, and familiar feels like home, even when home is harmful. Studies on attachment patterns show that anxious attachment styles in particular make people more likely to stay in relationships where they're treated poorly, because the fear of abandonment is so intense that even bad connection feels better than no connection. Let's talk about what trauma bonding actually looks like in real life, because it's not always obvious. You defend your partner when friends or family express concern. You minimize what they do. You make excuses for their behavior. You feel like you're the only one who really understands them. You believe that if you just love them enough, they'll change. You feel responsible for their emotions. You walk on eggshells trying not to upset them. You feel relief when they're in a good mood and terror when they're not. Your whole emotional state depends on theirs. You've lost touch with friends and family because your partner didn't like them, or because you're embarrassed about your relationship. You can't imagine your life without them, even though your life with them is painful. You have moments of clarity where you think, I need to leave, but then they do something sweet, or they apologize, or they have a crisis and need you, and you convince yourself to stay. You feel crazy, like you're overreacting, like maybe you're the problem. You find yourself explaining away things that you would never tolerate if a friend told you their partner did them. You feel addicted to this person. You know the relationship is bad for you, but you can't stop going back. You've tried to leave before, maybe multiple times, but you always end up back together. And each time you go back, you feel weaker, more ashamed, more stuck. Research on domestic violence shows that it takes an average of 7 attempts before someone successfully leaves an abusive relationship. 7, and each failed attempt makes the trauma bond stronger. Because you learn that leaving is painful and returning provides relief. Your nervous system starts to associate leaving with danger and staying with safety, even though objectively the opposite is true. This is why people on the outside can't understand why you don't just leave, because they're looking at the situation logically. But trauma bonding isn't logical. It's a nervous system response. It's brain chemistry. It's attachment patterns. It's survival instincts misfiring. So why are smart people especially vulnerable to this? You'd think intelligence would be protective, but in many ways, it makes you more susceptible. First, smart people are good at rationalizing. You can come up with very sophisticated reasons why the relationship isn't that bad. You can analyze your partner's behavior and create complex explanations for why they act the way they do. You can construct elaborate frameworks for how the relationship will improve if you just implement the right strategies. Your intelligence becomes a tool for keeping yourself trapped because you can outthink your own instincts. You can talk yourself out of what your gut is telling you. Second, smart people are often highly empathetic. You can see things from your partner's perspective. You can understand why they might be struggling. You can imagine the pain they must be in to act this way. This empathy is a beautiful quality, but in a trauma-bonded relationship, it works against you because you keep giving your partner the benefit of the doubt. You keep trying to understand them. You keep believing they can change because you can see their potential. Studies on empathy show that highly empathetic people are more likely to stay in relationships where they're being harmed because they can't stop seeing the humanity in their partner, even when that partner is dehumanizing them. Third, smart people are problem solvers. You see a problem and you want to fix it. The relationship is struggling, so you read books, you suggest couples therapy, you work on yourself, you try new communication strategies. You believe that if you can just find the right approach, things will get better. But here's the thing about abusive relationships. They're not problems to be solved. They're patterns to be escaped. The issue isn't that you haven't found the right solution. The issue is that your partner is choosing to hurt you, and no amount of problem solving on your part can change that. Research shows that people who are highly educated or successful in their careers often stay in abusive relationships longer because they approach the relationship like a project they can fix if they work hard enough. Fourth, there's the sunk cost fallacy. You've invested so much time, energy, emotion into this relationship. You've sacrificed other relationships. You've made compromises. You've been through so much together. The idea of walking away from all that investment feels unbearable. So you stay, because you've already invested so much that leaving would mean admitting it was all a waste. Economists call this the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to continue investing in something because of how much you've already invested, even when it's clearly not working. Smart people are particularly vulnerable to this because you can calculate exactly how much you've invested and exactly how much you'd be losing. But what you're not calculating is the cost of staying, the years of your life, the damage to your mental health, the person you're becoming in this relationship. Breaking free from a trauma bond is one of the hardest things you'll ever do because it's not just about ending a relationship. It's about breaking an addiction. It's about retraining your nervous system. It's about facing the grief of losing the person you thought your partner could be. The first step is recognizing that what you're experiencing is trauma bonding, putting a name to it, understanding that your inability to leave isn't a character flaw. It's a psychological response to ongoing trauma. Research on recovery from abusive relationships shows that education about trauma bonding is one of the most powerful tools for breaking free. Because once you understand what's happening, you can start to separate the bond from reality. Healing requires you to go no contact, or as minimal contact as possible if you share children or other obligations. Because every interaction with your partner reactivates the trauma bond, feeds it, makes it stronger. Your nervous system needs space away from them to start recalibrating, to remember that you can survive without them, to begin to break the addiction. Studies show that people who maintain contact with their abusive ex-partner take significantly longer to heal and are more likely to return to the relationship. You also need support, a therapist who understands trauma and abuse, friends or family who can remind you of reality when you start romanticizing the relationship. Support groups where you can talk to other people who understand what you're going through without judgment. You need to practice self-compassion. You're going to have moments where you want to go back, where you miss them, where you convince yourself it wasn't that bad. This doesn't mean you're weak or stupid. This is your nervous system doing what it was trained to do. Be gentle with yourself. Research on trauma recovery shows that self-compassion is one of the strongest predictors of healing. The more you can approach yourself with kindness instead of judgment, the faster you heal. You need to rebuild your sense of self. Trauma bonding makes you lose yourself. You become so focused on your partner's needs, moods, and reactions that you forget who you are. Healing means reconnecting with your own values, interests, and desires. It means learning to trust yourself again, to listen to your instincts, to believe that you deserve better. Here's what you need to understand. You're not stupid for staying. You're not weak for struggling to leave. You're not crazy for feeling addicted to someone who hurts you. You're experiencing a normal psychological response to abnormal circumstances. Trauma bonding is powerful. It's designed by nature to keep you attached, even when attachment is dangerous. In our evolutionary past, staying with the group even when the group treated you badly was safer than being alone. Your nervous system doesn't know that times have changed. It's still operating on ancient programming that says attachment equals survival. But you can override that programming. You can break the bond. You can heal. It won't be easy. There will be days where you feel like you're dying without them, where the pain of missing them is so intense you think you can't survive it. But you can, and you will. Thousands of people have broken trauma bonds and built beautiful lives on the other side. You're not alone in this. You're not the only smart person who's ever felt stuck in a relationship that's hurting you. Intelligence isn't what gets you out. Courage is. Support is. Understanding is. Patience with yourself is. You can do this. You deserve relationships where love doesn't hurt, where kindness is consistent, where you don't have to walk on eggshells or make yourself smaller to be safe. That life is waiting for you. But first, you have to break the